Right, welcome to a bit of the botched job episode, but normally I'm out on the field doing bits, and today instead I want to talk about all this kit, specifically the cameras and when I would use them. So I think we should start with the M11 Monochrom, which is absolutely filthy. It's because it's my favorite, my absolute favorite. It's the one I pick up the most. It's what I shoot all my street photography on, and I think it just has the most incredible look. I like cropping some of my images, and with the 60 megapixel sensor on this, it's unbelievable to do that. The files that you get from this are so malleable. When you try and convert a color photo to black and white, it doesn't have the same manipulation of this. You've got the most retention, the shadows and the highlights. Whenever I shoot digital, I protect the highlights anyway, but I just love its simplicity. If I'm shooting wide, like I've got this 21 over here, I chuck the Visa Flex on. But it's mainly as well for if I'm shooting something a bit longer like this 90 over here, it's really, really good because a rangefinder isn't great at critically focusing for things like portraits or landscapes. So I think that's a really useful tool, but this is for shooting wide, for shooting fast, shooting on the street, and especially with these lenses, it just sort of comes, I think a bit of a malfunction over here. It just sort of comes into its own. And I absolutely love it for that reason. I also think, I'm biased, but this is the best monochromatic centered camera out there at this compact size. There aren't a lot of cameras doing that. Yeah, it's a commitment to only go black and white, but one that I've never regretted. And starting from the Q2 monochrome and then going on to the M10 monochrome, this felt like the natural progression. And yeah, it's my absolute favorite. Now, I consider the M11 as a bit of a flagship camera for Leica. However, the Leica SL3 is simply unbelievable. It's sort of a computer. It's a lot closer to the Canon users, the Nikon users, Sony users, etc. The sensors pretty much the same as the M11. There's not a big amount of change, but the rate of speed that this can fire at, especially with a fast CF card, which isn't currently in there, is phenomenal. And this is my main portrait camera. I use this camera along with the SL2 for all of my homeless project work, if nothing changes. And I used to use it with a 28mm Monochrom SL that was incredibly sharp. Together, they're incredible because this EVF is so clear, so precise. Leica aren't known for its autofocus, but with things like close portraits, it's obviously great. Especially the jump from the SL2 to the SL3, I stopped hitting the rim of glasses, etc., and I actually started hitting the eye. But this is an absolute beast, and I mainly use M lenses on it now. I don't own any SL lenses. If I use them, I rent them. But yeah, when I want to shoot color, this is the one I grab because you need a color camera that's digital for client work. Again, with this side grip, makes it really nice with portrait work, and also just having that extra battery in there so you don't need to lose connection with the subject by going to change it. Absolutely chuffed with that. I guess the next one that's kind of similar to that is this Q3 43. I was lucky enough to test this before release, and coming from the Q2 monochrome, I'm a 28 guy mainly. I love that camera, and I didn't think I was going to like this, but the lens on this camera is one of the sharpest I've ever shot. And seeing the images that I got back from it, I fell in love with it. Now, normally, that's an odd thing for me to say because this is an Apo lens with not a ton of character. It's ridiculously sharp. I'd say, when I asked Peter Carver, I said, is this sharper or is the 35mm Monochrom Apo sharper on the M? And he said it's close, but he thinks that 35. But this is probably their second sharpest lens ever, I'd imagine. And again, small, compact, really useful for when you can't afford to miss focus because you're faffing around at 1.4 or something in manual. This is going to get it, and it's going to nail it, and it's going to look so sharp. But yes, it does lack character compared to the rest of these lenses. You know, some of them I haven't got for character, but the majority have got the most beautiful bokeh and background swirl. The other thing is it shoots itself. You don't really need to work for your images. You can walk around sort of smoking a cigar and pressing just one button all day, and you don't need to do anything, which is great at times, but kind of robs a lot of the fun of it for me. And that's why I love M, that's why I love rangefinders. But nonetheless, that's not what this is there for. And what it is there for, it absolutely nails. And I prefer it to the Q3. This is the Q3 43, well worth playing with if you walk into a Leica store. So that kind of covers digital. That's kind of the main sort of three that I would use. But again, as I said, I lean towards the M11 Monochrom. When I'm shooting digital, I love black and white. But now I'm gonna get the frustrating one out of the way. My point and shoot. the Minilux. Now, this camera is so much fun. It's got a lot of pros. The 40mm on this is very sharp, but it breaks the whole time. I've had so many EO2 errors. I was kind of expecting one to pop up then. It's not reliable, but when the images hit on this, they hit so nice. Because as I said, that lens is really, really nice and sharp. Still got pretty good character, but the other thing is anyone can pick this up and use it. You know, if I'm passing the MP or the M6 to someone, they don't really get the idea of that it's manual focus and how to expose it properly until you explain to them, and then they're still trying to move stuff around. And it's probably like trying to learn to drive and listening out for the revs to when to change gear. It's, you know, it's all a bit funny for them. Though, although it's easy to use, it does have the most pathetic little rangefinder, and it just needs to be so much bigger. The viewfinder is pretty average, pretty milky, but I mean, for what you need it for, it slots in the pocket super well, super easy to load and to retract, does it all itself. Would I buy it again? No. There are far better point and shoot cameras out there than the Minilux. This is high end, it feels high end, but it does break. If it didn't break as much as it does, I'd say go for it. But again, there are a lot nicer options out there. Nonetheless, still a great camera, and I've really enjoyed shooting it. Let's move on to the trusty M6. Probably the one that most people talk about. I've taken the majority of my film images on this, and the M6 is what drew me into film photography. I had a Canon AE1, and I really enjoyed that. I do miss that shutter slap. That was incredible, and I did do medium format for a bit. However, this just made me feel so complete when I bought one of these. I bought it in chrome first, used that for about a year, and then I swapped onto the black. And I way prefer the black, and I know that people kind of have preferences of what they prefer and what they don't, but the black M6 is incredible. This also, being the TTL, has a really nice big dial, so that actually when you're kind of shooting, you can use that to change just to get your exposure correct, etc. Or you don't need to pull up, and you can get one sharp and then one do a motion blur. Yeah, it's a wicked camera. It's also iconic, and the more it wears down, the nicer it gets, and it just feels so familiar whenever I have it in my hand. But absolutely love this. Again, there are cheaper options. I'm showing you expensive options, but these are the ones that I use, and I absolutely love it. I get no more joy out of any of these other cameras than I do this. This one gives me the most joy when I pick it up. I then recently picked up, I don't know if you've seen the video on this new MP repainted Reporter. Well, I got a repainted Reporter by CameraWorks, did an amazing job. And in theory, again, this one's absolutely filthy. What am I doing? In theory, it is very similar to the M6, pretty much the same. However, it has a few little quirks. There's a different rewind lever. The viewfinder's a lot clearer. The shutter is so much nicer, smoother, and sort of more precise. Like, it feels like you've locked in. This one's like, yeah, it's just over there a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of the Safari, but I do love the Reporter, and this is kind of where I'm at with it. I really like some of the finishes on this. It's absolute perfection. And again, makes you feel very happy. I can't sort of bung this one in the car or in a bag, whereas I do with the M6. I want to keep this one nice and contained, clean, pristine. And actually, it's the one that tends to sit out the most as well. I want to see it. It makes me want to pick up a camera and go shoot. So I like having it, you know, when all this is tucked away, I like having that MP on display somewhere just to remind me, I might finish work in a second, just head out and shoot for a bit. And those are the culprits are mainly Kodak Gold or Tri-X in those as well. And again, I think my favorite mix of these M's with any lens on it would be, but the 28 just looks gorgeous on it. Some of these bigger lenses are a bit of a faff. And if I ever shoot the Noctilux on it, which I'll show you, because it is just, look at that. It's an absolute monster. And it doesn't feel too bad on the monochrome because I use the thumb grip and sometimes the extra handle on it. But this is just such a beast. It's so hard to focus at 9.5, especially on film. So what I tend to do is get one of these magnifiers, and that just screws into the back like that and makes it a lot easier to see. There you are. That is kind of the cameras and a little bit about the lenses, but we will get into those in the next episode. I just wanted to sort of give a bit of an update of what I'm using, why I'm using it, and hopefully that gives a little bit of context. But that is the entire setup, and I'm very lucky to use them. I know some people might ask me if I had to keep just one camera, what would it be? I'm still going with that. That monochrome is just incredible. If you haven't had a chance to shoot monochrome, look into it and just have a little play, even if you're predominantly a color shooter, just so you can understand the crazy people like me who like shooting just black and white. There's a reason. Thanks so much for watching. Sorry about a bit of a change, a bit of a boring one talking from it. Honestly, if you could see this, actually have a quick look. This is so bad. That's what I'm kind of using as everything. So, done my best, but hopefully it was enjoyable nonetheless, and I will see you in the next one.